Folks, welcome to the Rialto Theater here. I'm joined by a legendary bass player, Rocco Prestia. Welcome, Rocco.
Nice to be here.
Can you give some inspirational words to your rhythm partner, David Garibaldi?
Oh man, I'm just so happy that he's getting better.
Yeah, and can you talk about the longevity of you guys and how much you enjoy, why you enjoy playing with David?
Well, me and Dave have a special kind of magic that I don't really experience with anybody else. So, and the longevity, of course, is, we've grown throughout the years.
Right. Always, Cortez, I was just talking to Cortez before, and he was talking about just pushing the tempo, always pushing forward. You talk about that drive, like it was going back to Extension 5, even before, you've always had that pulsating rhythmic style. Gregorico, on one of I transcribed our interview, and you talked about keeping your ego in check, how to sustain as a band. Rico called you a Picasso of the bass. Okay, but can you talk about driving the tempo, pushing the tempo?
Well, it's just I guess playing on top of the beat as opposed to behind the beat.
Mm-hmm.
Is what kind of drives it forward and, keeps it going,
And it's always been like a natural feel inside of you, though.
Oh, yeah.
All right?
Yeah. I mean, unless I'm not feeling so good.
How do you feel right now? I mean, how this tour is...
I'm feeling good. I just came back. This is my fourth day back. I had a couple of months, a rough couple of months, this last couple, so, it's good to be back.
Can you talk about, even before Extension 5, playing at Frenchie's? I mean, playing gigs and how you got comfortable on the bandstand, just driving the tempo and knowing that your job was to lock the groove. Can you talk about some early experiences, especially at Frenchie's? We talked about Frenchie's last time.
Frenchie's, well, that was after Extension 5.
You just got your bracelet.
Frenchie's was like the place everybody wanted to play, at the time. But I don't know. I mean, the way I play, it's pretty much.
Yeah, 1, 2, 1, 2, big move on, red hot ball.
When Dave joined the band, that's what kind of solidified the way.
Yeah, 1, 2, 2.
I was,
got it.
I came from that school, James Pierce, Duck Dunn kind of, background, and then when Dave joined, he had all these great ideas and, just the nature of the way he played and the way I played. And what came out of it is pretty much the way I play now. Because he plays with a lot of ghost notes and stuff like that as well.
You talk about ghost notes? Please define ghost notes.
I'm sorry?
Ghost notes? What are those?
Well, they're not... it's just more of a percussive sound, where you don't actually hit the note, it's implied.
Implied. I did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of younger cats. We're inundated with a lot of visual material now, YouTube. There are books out there. I don't know if Rocco Prestia has a bass book out, but Garibaldi's written a lot of books. But if there's a cat that just picks up an instrument like a bass, and they have natural feel, what's your advice as to how to grow? Because, like yourself, you're not an academic musician.
No, I'm not.
I don't think you read. Do you read?
No, I I don't.
No. Okay, so instill in cats, talk to cats about being a natural player and why that's okay and how to grow.
Well, I don't know that it's okay. I mean, it's okay for me.
Sure. What I'm trying to say is that they don't feel like they need to go to academia to learn.
Well, I would say, you know, to anybody coming up that the nature of the business, the way it is now, to probably learn as much as you can as far as reading and, you know, the technical side of it, on that side.
Sure.
Just because, like I said, the nature of the business, I see a lot of cats. I mean, they're playing with this guy and then that guy and this guy, you know, and you have to, you know, really be on top of your game. You know, a player like me, I would have a hard time surviving in the atmosphere the way it is today. You know, I mean, I've always said, if I had to do what I see a lot of guys doing, I don't know if I would have stayed in music, to be honest. You know,
It's because it's too transient now. You can't get really locked in.
to me, it's not fun. That's not fun.
That's not fun.
You know, to have to, you know, learn this and learn that and learn this and that. Only because, like I said, I don't. My ears aren't that good. If I listen to something, I mean, I hear things kind of in nerves and feels. So, you know, I mean, if I was to have to do that, I would probably need somebody to help me, to find the right places to be, you know, musically.
You know, James Jamerson, a lot of times would get frustrated because a lot of musicians would say, "Hey, where's the one? Where's the one? Where's the one?" And Jamerson would yell, "Any note can be the one."
That's true.
Can you talk about that influence, the idea, how he created space in the music, how he influenced you, insofar as any note can be the one?
Well, I never looked at it that way. You know, I mean, he influenced me just by the nature of the feel.
Right.
You know, and you know, I mean, he just had a wonderful feel for music. You know?
Did you know it was him on those Motown records? Like, did you grow up listening to those? What Motown records were you getting off on as a kid?
Oh, gosh, I mean, you know, I was a big Temptations, Four Tops.
Yeah, sure.
You know, Last Night, all these Motown acts. But, you know, the bass lines that went along with it. I mean, I was asked to, I did that Motown thing, James Emerson Motown thing.
Was it? Well, what do you mean? It was a record? It was a soundtrack of sorts?
Yeah, there was a record, I think, I don't know, I think there might have been
It's just a humble guy, man. And go ahead, yeah. So you were on that.
and I was asked to play something that he had done, you know, and when it was all said and done, I mean, the way I played it and the way he played it were very, very close. I mean, it was pretty funny when I look back on it, you know.
Right. Can you talk about the feeling inside when collectively in the band you lose the one and then all come back in on the same time? What does that feel like?
Feels good. I mean, you know, I mean, when everybody's kind of going for it,
Yeah.
things get turned around. And playing with Dave, I mean, he's famous for turning the beat around and doing all these crazy feels and stuff. So when it comes back around and we actually get to the one, it's like, oh, we made it. You know?
What are you still learning about? I mean, you know, you're just coming back, but as far as a musician, I talked to Mike Clark today, a great drummer. from the Headhunters and just talked to Jerry Cortez. What are you still learning about as a musician? What are you trying to still stretch out in?
Oh, boy. I don't know. I mean, I just seem to constantly be refined. You know, getting from point A to point B, and a lot of times I simplify a lot of things that I used to play a lot more. You know. In some ways, you know, I mean, I listened to some of the old stuff. It was like, what the hell? How did I do that? What was I doing? You know? And, but I also, miss stretching out like that. I don't know, the way we play now, it doesn't lend itself to that kind of stretching out like it is now.
I think attention spans have been cut down. People are more focused on composition. I mean, I just talked to Dimiola yesterday. He's like, the idea of improvisation or noodling out for 15 minutes, people don't want to hear that anymore.
Well, it's not only that, but, we just don't do those kind of tunes anymore.
What tunes are those?
Like screw cakes and stuff like that, where you have the opportunity to really kind of go after it and, challenge yourself and, go after different grooves, as it were, within the groove.
Yeah. Different grooves within the groove. Yeah. I dig. Who were your compadres that you, from that scene, who played? Was it David Freiberg and Phil Lesh? Did you get off on those cats at all?
Honestly, no. I mean,
so who were you going to check out? I mean, what I'm saying is, okay, so you were part of that Bill Graham, Fillmore scene, but were you going to see the Howlin' Wolf's bass player? Who were you checking out?
No.
You never left your house? I mean,
pretty much. I mean, I've never been one to listen to music a great deal, if I go out, you can find great players, in any place, in any little corner of the country or the world, as it were. It's they don't have to necessarily be a name. There's great players everywhere.
What's this? Can you talk about Vegas right now? I mean, we talked about in our first interview, for what it's worth, the Mafia, when they ran things, music was thriving. Now the banksters run things, and music has been cut down.
Yeah, corporate took over and kind of screwed everything up.
Can you, like, as a musician, how did it? I mean, you're getting paid for these gigs, but how did it? I mean, it didn't really screw up your life, but it did. It took the music out of the community. What?
Well, yeah, the average guy that plays, it just, it isn't not necessarily with anybody in particular. Those kind of guys, I mean, I would say disco really kind of screwed that up.
In what way? Just the.
Well, I mean, when club owners, figured out that they could spin a record and, pay one guy and to do that, I'm not very much at that, but they didn't have to worry about hiring a band.
So yeah, that really started in the disco era.
It did.
I oftentimes look at it in my generation, being 38. I look at that happening more in the 90s, but you're saying it really happened more like late 70s.
Well, I always blame the Bee Gees. And what's her name? Gaynor.
Gloria Gaynor.
Yeah, that whole thing. When they came in, I mean, to me, it changed the whole business.
You hung out with Bill Medley last night from the Righteous Brothers?
Yeah, that was a treat.
Had you run into him before?
No, first time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
I was going to say that.
It gives inspiration for people like me at my age. I mean, I guess he's 76. It's like, holy shit.
How are you? You know, because I mean, I'm going out to visit Tony Bennett.
Yeah,
He's still touring. I mean,
It's amazing. But it gives us, you know, it's like, you know, you don't have to, it's not a business where you retire. You do it till you can't. You know, that's kind of the way it works.
can you definitively say that if you didn't play, then you would die? Does music keep you alive?
Oh, gosh. In a sense, yes. In reality, no. You know what I mean? I mean, I would still live. I wouldn't. I probably wouldn't have. I wouldn't have that outlet. I wouldn't have that. You know, it would be something else. You know, maybe I'd be a carpenter. I don't know, but you know, for me, that's my outlet. I mean, I think everybody has something to offer, so it doesn't really matter what profession you're in. For me personally, though, I don't think I would die, but I would die inside. You know
Yeah,
what I
the
mean?
soul.
Yeah.
The question is also, did you ever play the upright bass?
No,
Did you see Miles? Did you ever see Miles?
I never saw Miles live.
Who is the?
I might say, well, I take that back. I think I might have seen him at one of the jazz festivals in Europe or something.
What was the most like? What jazz group? What upright bass player in jazz when you were first starting out? Did you enjoy?
You know, I don't really know that many. I mean, obviously there's Stanley. Yeah.
Stanley Clark,
Yeah.
a dear friend of the Jake Feinberg show. Yeah, I mean, but that dude. Yeah, when he was doing the electric bass stuff, that was inspiring to you when he first came on the scene.
No, I mean, I've always, you know, respected and admired him, you know, but I never like listened to him and, you know, like studied him or anything like that. You know, I mean, anything that you take in and hear, you know, is some kind of inspiration.
Absolutely.
It gets locked away, and it comes out at various times. And it doesn't have to be another bass player. I mean, it could be, you know, a drummer, a guitar player. It could be anybody.
What about the idea, like, you and Garibaldi, did you wind up sharing bills with, like, Weather Report or Return of Forever? Because, like, Virtuous, like, and Clark, they weren't using the bass as to lock the groove. They were actually using it as another voice. Or they were locking the groove and using it as a solo instrument. Did you guys, I mean, did that ever come into play with you guys? Did you ever try to fool around with that?
No, I mean, when, you know, bass, you know, when they started, players started making it more of a solo instrument, you know, as a forefront instrument, as it were. You know, like with Larry, you know, he was part of that.
Larry Graham?
Yeah. You know, and people like that, you know. I mean, to me, there's room for all of it, you know. I never, I've always been an inside the groove kind of guy. I'm not a soloist. I never have been. You know, I do a little bass fill here and there, you know. That's my solo. You know?
Right.
I don't know. It just, I don't know. It's just, you know, it's not that important to me. You know.
Absolutely. No, I mean, you make one final question for you, Rocco. It's so good to connect with you in person. Can you talk about the music coming through you, coming from the heavens, coming through you, and there's only two letters that separate magic and music. When you talk about the music coming through you, being that you are not an academically trained musician, and just that feeling of the music coming from the heavens.
It's, you know, it's you know, and any I think musician will tell you, you know, you always strive to get to that place on stage. you know, where it's a free flow, you know, and that's when you know, you're in your own little bubble and nobody can touch you, and it's, you know, the best feeling there is, you know, it's a great feeling, but it doesn't happen all the time, you know.
Did it happen more when you were in that Squib Cakes era, when you were able to stretch out more?
I think so. Of course, there were other.
Yeah. Yeah. There were ways to expand consciousness as well. But tell me, in truth, in a time now that's more formulaic, where you're going through more compositions, you're not stretching out as much, how do you keep yourself stimulated?
You know, my approach to it is I just want to get it right every time. So if I approach it that way, you know, it lends itself to keeping your focus on stage, you know, keeping your focus, and you find your little spots to stretch out, do things, try things, you know.
What about you, man?
Yeah, I mean, that's.
But sometimes, are there any wrong notes?
Yes and no. You know, for me as a bass player, I can get away with playing around even a bad note, you know, because I can, you know, bump through it or ghost through it or, you know, all that kind of stuff. But I mean, if you got a singer singing in A, you don't want to be hitting, you know, F sharp on the downbeat, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that would be kind of a wrong note, yeah. So, but
Emilio, can you talk about the fact that the longevity of this band is a direct tribute to Emilio, his leadership style?
yeah, well, he's very patient, I will say.
Can you give an example of that patience?
Well, I mean, he you know, he's he lets you attack the tune from how you feel, as opposed to the way he hears it in his head.
Yeah, I did.
You know what I mean? So, you know, he might be the writer, and he hears a certain thing. He'll say to you, you know, maybe, you know, you want to, you know, try it like this, add a note here or leave a space. You know, Dave's the same. You know, but as far as like really telling you what to do, you know, we're all pretty free to be who we are. So I think that works for everybody. And also the music, you know, the music itself. It's fun music to play.
Love you, Rocco. Have a great show, man. Good to hang, man.
All right.
Keep it up.